like now we all move remote, and this was impossible before to do a production remote. Nobody would go for it. They
Yeah.
would make you go into the studio. Now it's become almost the mainstream thing where we everybody works from home, but we need to improve our communication and our pipeline on how everything works.
Yeah.
And again, this is us trying to do it.
All right.
Anyways, now
Yeah.
I think we can
Let's
start.
go. Yeah, it's
Thank
kind
you
of
for
like over
coming
time.
again.
Thank
Yeah,
you
thank
guys
you
for being
everybody
here.
for coming again. Second day.
Yeah. So just gonna quickly move forward now, and I'm just
Yeah,
gonna mention, yeah, like our day one was this, right? This is what we covered yesterday.
yeah.
So just like a little refresher for you guys. And then just day two is really gonna be about the post-production and the
And
distribution.
it's been recorded and it should be sent to you guys. Please let us know if there's an issue. But you
Yes.
guys should have these recordings.
We
You
will,
know.
I will be sending them out like as well. So I know Zoom was supposed to do it. That's why when you register, Zoom does it. But if it didn't do it, don't worry. I am also going to send it out like after we're done with the two recordings. So yeah, so again, like if you have any questions, and I popped in the Q&A Discord fresh link, just pop them in there. And of course, like if you want to give us your feedback on what you look for, what you felt like you didn't gain or what you gained, and then if you'd like a one-on-one with us, free consultation, let us know. We're happy to hop in and
Mhm.
essentially check out your project and give you insight. So that's that. So all right,
All right.
yeah, let's go. So
Stage 5.
stage five. So you got everything done. You have your content. You have your short film, or you have your, proof of concept. You have your episodic pilot. Call it what you want. It really is a short form content. Didn't get the recording. Yeah, no worry. We'll be emailing it them the recordings.
Hmm.
So yeah, essentially, in terms of the post and what goes in the post, and whoever's familiar with what goes in the post, great. Whoever isn't familiar, there is a few things that go there. So these are the basic things that go in post, and then the director's job. So in terms of you, Jose, like for your project, could you tell us the things, the choices you made?
Yeah.
Yeah, how did you address
Yeah.
the topics?
So
Yeah.
a lot because I did solo. I did a lot of the pre-planning. All my blueprint was done at the beginning. So I did all my thinking, even though, yeah, I had to alter it. And that is a normal thing in the production line, especially when you're doing solo, is that the glue now, the production part where we put post-production here is where we grab everything we have, music, sound effects, your actual composited shots, and put them together, make sure everything flows correctly, do your color correction, do your proper audio mix. Sometimes you'll have little farts in there that you don't want. I call them farts, but they're like, hiccups or whatever. If you need to add any more sound effects designs, you need to, I actually near the end, I decided to change the music in the hallway, and it's not decided. I realized that that is because I was using copyrighted material for a temp, which was from Scooby Doo show, and I'm like, I need to change this. I can't use this just in case, right? Because it's not like I'm selling it. That's when it becomes an issue when you start selling, but that's another conversation.
Mhm.
Anyways, making sure you export everything the right way. So what sizes, everything. You need to be very on point of what you need it for. Like YouTube requires certain exports that's better for it. If you're selling it to a festival, that's again different aspect that you need to think about. That was pretty much it for me, I think. But
Mhm.
I don't want to take more time. How about you, Sonia?
Do you want us to
For
just
you?
go over your shot? The
Oh yeah, yeah.
fully, so the one where it did like it's a
No, the post production. Yeah,
post-production shot, yeah.
this shot is now. I almost forgot about this. This
Mhm.
shot is basically everything put together. I composited. I did everything necessary, and this is in the final. Basically, this is just a chunk of it.
Okay,
Um,
so we'll
I,
just check it out.
yeah.
Through the heavy fog of the city to a large house in the suburbs. A young couple enter the portals of that house to attend an art auction.
I came here to see that
It's a
oil
little
painting.
hiccupy.
Oh, it's quite a painting.
Yes, so we've heard.
It's in my study. Come and take a look before the auction starts. Now,
Sorry, so
I
funny,
could make it longer.
ridiculous. It's so funny.
Yeah, it was a kind of hiccupy there, but it's
Yeah.
just the streaming. So
Yeah.
Anyways,
So yeah, Clip Studio Paint, right? Like, I mean,
yeah,
post for you.
everything's
Yeah,
backgrounds. I actually did that background really fast because to me the important thing was the acting and everything. But yeah, it's things that you have to let go. But we can talk about that later.
sure. So in terms of like sound effects, did you have to find any extra sound effects outside of the radio play? Did you have to add
Yeah,
any
like I
color
used the
correction?
Wilhelm. Yeah, I used the Wilhelm scream, which is legendary in the film community, because I always wanted to use it and I always
Hmm.
found it funny,
Okay.
and that's what led the gag. So that I used. There's tons of other things that like little sound clips. Little. Um, it's not in here, but her voice. There's a line that she says that I actually grabbed from later in the radio play, and then I put
Hmm.
it earlier just to hit a joke.
Hmm.
That kind of stuff.
Got it.
So yeah.
Okay. So I'll just talk a little bit about how sound effects, how sound design, sound effects design, and how the score and essentially with the color correction. So in terms of the sound effects design and the film, the Astonata film, it was actually designed based on requests. So as a director, as myself being the director, when I spoke with the sound effects designer, technician, that's what they're called, sound effects technicians, I had to describe the feelings or the sounds I would, or the action I would want that sound to feel like. So it doesn't necessarily have to be literally what you think. For example, in the part of the film where she's pulling on the character, the tone, it can sound like a rope. It can sound like something rubbery. It can sound like just I don't know. You have to think of like how would you describe that sound, and then the sound technician would make the sound or find or create. So in our case, the composer created sound effects based on real life sounds. So with the bird, um, she referenced the bird, and then she created her own version, the composer, and then the sound effects technician would either plus it or sometimes even replace those choices depending on the conversations with the director. So with myself, I literally had a list of this for each shot, which part of the visual shot needs to actually emanate a sound effect sound. And then when the sound effects technician looked at the list, then he went and created them. So that's where the director and the sound effects technician work together. And anything on screen that you hear makes a sound would have been a request at the director's request, or if the sound technician like collaborated and said, "Oh, over here, do you think you would want this to make that kind of a noise?" So in terms of like the bus, right? If you watch the cartoon, the bus emanates like almost like a trumpet noise, not like like a steam slash trumpet, like that's because it has to do with the fact that the character was thinking, reflecting in musically. So the idea was that the things she sees outside of her window making sounds translates in her mind as a musical sound. So again, that's a request at which I made. So I had to explain these things to the composer, and I had to explain these things to the sound technician, because that is going back to the story, the heart of the story. What is this picture about? Really, it's about a composer composing her piece, and where does she get inspiration? Outside sounds. And which are those sounds? What do we see outside? The bus, the bird, um, and then I think she had a thing with the spoon that she did. These are all conversations that the director had I had to have with the writer, right? Would this make sense for this character to think this way? Would these sounds be a reflection of her imagination of how does that as a composer? Or is she a composer that reads something? And because we went through many iterations, there are composers that write and then they listen to other, let's say, musicians and their pieces, and then they use that as reference. In this case, it was a deliberate choice to have the character use the outside sounds as inspiration. So then when I explain this to the sound technician in post, because he doesn't know the story, he doesn't know what he's looking at. He could just give me the generic sounds effects. These are all deliberate choices, and it's the director's job to track these choices and to keep everybody on track with the points of the story. So in terms of that, you will then hear the blinds open up when the climax of the short, when you have the reds and the blues and the purples, and the blinds open up to intensify the moment. The blind sound is actually like a it's not a blind sound like a flip up, because you could have, like, thinking of what kind of material the blind is would reflect the sound as well. So as a director yourself, working with people by yourself, these are all the details you have to think of, things happening on screen and what sound they make and why, and what is the point of that sound. Are we to pay attention to the sound, or are we to have it as something in the background, or is it something we don't need to accentuate with sound? So that's all post conversations. However, myself working on this and working with the composer, like I mentioned, in my case, I involved the composer from day one. And because to me, the director, you guys, if you're directing, it's a holistic picture. You need to consider sound as much as visuals, because it's the audiovisual experience you're having when you're watching something. We talked about that. You guys all can relate to this. You will always remember musical moments out of the films you really liked. So then that also ties into the theme of the picture and how that evolves, and what is the moment where you want to tie in the theme of the picture. So working backwards in my case, I wanted the theme of the short to be tied in the moment where she completes it. So the moment where she hums and she composes the song and she ties it all in, and you have that score like da na na na. That's something that was established later. And then when we established that theme, then I said, let's trickle it in the beginning in post. Let's trickle those notes to make the bell make those notes. Do 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 with the tower, with the bell tower, with the clock. These are all deliberate decisions made in post. So it's just like you're reviewing your film, and then you're looking at each shot and you're thinking, how can I tie everything together to make it feel like it's all audio visual progression, like you're watching it as something that grows. It's not just like a stagnant thing you're watching, right? So that was all part of the story, because she's growing through the film. She's experiencing. If you're doing something to do with action, you're gonna have a different goal there. It's all about understanding
Yeah.
the goal, right? Like the picture. So
Yeah.
in terms of like, yeah, sorry, I tend to just kind of go on and on.
Oh,
um,
just for mindful and time. That was
yeah,
it.
yeah. So just quickly on the color correction, it's actually really great what you can do in color correction stage. In my case, I wanted things like, even though we did a lot in comp, when you see it in the final stage before it gets all compressed, essentially you can ask for more things as a director. You can say, I really want that like less saturated. In my case, the moment I'm going to show you guys is when I really asked to drop the saturation of the color at the end when she collapses in the floor and the color fades, and we go to kind of this like almost like a, not black and white, but it's kind of like gray. And the reason why I ask for that in post is because I really wanted to match better with the moment of the rain, and everything in the rain feels gloomy, and everything with the rain feels like, it's like almost like um, lifeless is how I explained it. I wanted to feel like a lifeless moment, like everything kind of stops, time stops. And the rain is another thing, again, that wasn't scripted, that again, thinking of how sounds and weather and outside climate can help you tell your story to show passing of time, because there's many ways you can show passing of time. You could do like a bunch of things. In my case, I thought that the natural break would be because it's, you have the window again, using the
Yeah.
visuals, and what can you see through the window outside, and then you think, well, I will see hear things, I see weather, I see light and dark and all of that. So then using a natural break like a rain, which is not too much, you don't need to explain that in any way, then that's what I had worked in. And then using the color to fade and a big pause, and that's where you feel that it's not something that is distracting to you watching the story. So these are all conversations, decisions, yes, most impactful, that you have as a director, that you choices you
Yeah.
make. And again, conversations with your team, and somebody has any ideas, great. And if the ideas divert, it's your job to stay on course. So the shot I explained with the sound effects that I just talked about, like what you ask for, then we can then watch it now in like that quick segment. I'll show you guys like that sequence real quick, and then thinking of what I just explained, it'll make sense when you watch it. And also, like, you'll see breaking of glass, you'll hear breaking of glass, but visually no glass was broken. But to me, it was like the communication that the moment was about her destroying what she created. And even though we didn't want to like show breaking of glass because that would be more complicated for animation, and we didn't want her to destroy her window visually, we wanted that feeling though. So I thought maybe we can have glass breaking, and will that make sense? It kind of works, I think, still. But yeah, I'm just gonna play it. Yeah, here we go. It's good. And then the rope, rubbery rope.
I love that shot. That was awesome.
And that's the lighting. Yeah, it's great. And the lighting is also another thing, like in post. Hey, can you give me some lighting? Thanks, Ivan. So
Yeah.
sweet. Love the support. Again, like these are the things you ask as director in post, or look for or create. Like maybe you didn't think of them earlier, but then later on you're like, I need it right here. Maybe it works, and that's where you try it, right? So yeah, I think that's good for post conversation for now. Anything you want to add, Jose, before we're gonna move on
That
to
was great.
distribution?
No, mine was really simple because it was just, everything was really already done. So, but
Yeah.
you had to put a lot of elements together and orchestrate like a group of people to make sure that you had your vision come through. So it is very important to be very clear
Yeah.
with your instructions and your vision too. That's why I say at the beginning the what, the why, and the who. Like, who is this for? What are you making? Who are you making it for? Kind of thing, all these questions that you need to ask yourself before you even commit yourself to everything in here. Because when you get to this stage is where everything is just you putting it together. There's no time to redo things. Sometimes you have to, but it's like you have to have planned it before. And that's why you get in some productions, things get rushed in the end. Like you'll see some movies that don't work in the end because their thoughts were not, their vision was not planned out properly. Mind you, you have other elements come into play, like producers, whatnot. But anyways, we should go into the next
Distribution.
one, which I'm really excited to discuss, is the distribution and this theme, which is the theme of the whole.
The
You
noise.
finished the noise that you got to make to show your your film. So am I supposed to start? I forgot about this.
Yeah, go for it. Just
I'm
go for
supposed
it.
to start. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that for me was again very different because to me, I initially made this film for myself. I just kind of, I'll be honest, I was kind of tired of working in productions that it's okay, you're just doing what other people say. I'm like, I just want to make something I want to watch. And that was my initial intention. So I made it for me. And then I showed it to a few people and they go like, this is funny. They enjoyed it. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna keep going. So it kind of evolved into, me putting it into events, like sending it out to festivals and stuff. Thanks to actually partly to Sonia because she kind of pushed me for doing this because I wasn't gonna put them in anything. Like I would just wanted to have it and put it out on YouTube or something, let's say. But I started putting it out and I think it makes a difference because then I got some feedback even when I went to Lightbox like a few years ago, and I put in the Lightbox channel and people saw it there, and like I got a message and I'm like, oh wow, I didn't realize people would care for this.
Mhm.
And that's the same thing for everybody here. You might not think that's something that other people might like, but there will be people that will like your stuff, that you would have a lot of like, in in the aesthetics and whatnot. So yeah, I did not have a lot of Meta, Facebook, Instagram. Like I really just put a lot of my pre-production stuff there. Um, but again, I didn't do much in this area as much as Sonia has done. She's delved really deep into this. which is amazing. And I want to even hear more. We always talk about this stuff, but I
Yes.
always love hearing her talk about this distribution
Oh,
part
thanks, man.
because it's very intriguing to me. And by the way, sorry, quick shout out. I want to give a quick. I noticed that May Roseby is here, and sorry if I'm embarrassing you, but she is amazing. She's the one that actually helped me with the two of the backgrounds because I could not figure it out, and that's where I was able to communicate with her like what I wanted, and she was able to help me because I was like I kept failing at it, and I'm like I'm spending way too much time trying to get these two backgrounds done, and she did it in like a day because she's amazing. But you should look at her work. She's great, and she's a great art director. So anyways, shout out to you, and now on to Sonia. Feel like a news network, and
Oh
now on to
boy, I know,
Sonia.
right? Welcome to our, yeah. Here,
Welcome to our news program.
welcome. Here's the thing about the great thing that I had an opportunity to get more insight when I became part of the short film, which production, which is a program that is sponsored by ACE Canada Society. So there are a few programs out there that each country, there's more now companies doing it, training opportunity programs or kind of like co-op or cohorts programs where you'll have like support and they will also like fund like a small production pipeline, which is a great way to learn and to be a part of something that can really help you understand the importance of all the elements that essentially we see but don't understand the importance of. For example, having a credit, what kind of credit and how can it be used? Director credit, producer credit, etc. For example, what is a public relations agency? Why should we care for that? Well, there's actually a reason because a lot of the times when you read about different what is it called? Like magazine, like Cartoon Brew magazines that write about people. Um, there a lot of the times you have to understand that those are pre-planned articles, and then there's a process behind involved that actually has something to do with who reaches out to them, and who reaches out to them usually are different people than like artists or creators. There's a lot of PR involved in that as well, like structurally. That's another piece. Then there is, of course, grants and things you can get if you have specific credits. And how do you get a credit of a director? There's specific qualifications for that. It's not complicated, actually, but it is something that you just need to understand. Like the moment you screen something online on specific platforms, your credit then is valid. It has a release, which brings me to the whole point of YouTube trailer and essentially Jose's short film. When you are releasing what you created whatever it is you call it, a short film, the moment you have a release online on YouTube, you are going to get discredited from festivals because a lot of the qualifications on the festival applications is you cannot actually have screened it already. So that's something you have to know. And again, if I wouldn't have been part of this whole process, I wouldn't know this because not many people explain this because it's not really it's not something people deal with on a regular basis unless it's your job to distribute things. And then you'd know, you apply to festivals, you read the applications, you know you shouldn't post your short film online if you want to apply to festivals. Now, the trailer, I don't know if you can see it. The trailer, as long as you have 15% of your content, you can put out a trailer, but you cannot put out the whole thing if you want to apply to
Yeah.
festivals. Most of the festivals require you not to post it anywhere. Um, and why? Because they want people to come buy tickets and watch it inside at the festival, which makes complete sense. And that's where you also get a lot of like more publicity. So in terms of all these social media things and YouTube, you have to consider these things. Consider what you're gonna do with it. This is what distribution is. It really means you're gonna create this thing, and then what is the path for it afterwards? What is the point of making this thing? Where do you want it to go? What's required for that? So you plan a little bit, and you should start thinking about this from day one, because you're going to spend all your time, invest in this project. You should know where it's gonna end up or where you'd like it to end up, and that's all again like as a director, it's as much as it is your film, even when you have a team. It's your film, and if you're by yourself, it's like with Jose, it's all about then he's the one who's gonna think about all of it. When you have a producer, if you partner up with somebody who's a credited producer, notice I mentioned credited, because then it is a different application when you have somebody who hasn't been credited. That's another piece. And as directors, we have more open doors to apply for grants because we have director credits versus somebody who doesn't have a credit. These are all small details and things that take time to learn, to read applications, to understand the structures, etc., etc. So in terms of, I'm just going to take one quick example to give you guys an idea of the process. So in terms of Ostinato and the way that it helped me, once I got a credit, because it was finished and it had its Canadian premiere, which all it means is it was shown or released on. We did the first time release on, it's a festival called Spark. It's based out of Vancouver, BC. It's a wonderful festival if you've never been to it. They have a lot of artists, like creatives and talent that come to that festival from the West Coast. So it's a great opportunity to meet people there. So that's where we screened our film for the first time. So how you screen your film at a festival is up to you. There's paths you can apply, maybe something else. You can do a private screening. It's all kind of up to you which path you want to take. So this is the festival route I'm going to talk about. So there's other ways you can distribute your stuff. Licensing and all of that has to do with also your festival. So for example, in our case in Ostinato, we screened it at Spark, and then we submitted it to other festivals. So for Annecy, if they would have chosen our festival, then as a director, I could receive a grant to, like a stipend, so help me cover my expenses to go to the festival. Anywhere your film gets submitted to go, in Canada specifically, Telefilm specifically has travel grants if you are and your film are invited to a festival. And again, this is not something you would know unless you research this and you took interest in this and you also have a credit. So in terms of my case, I was invited to Comic-Con and I was invited to the Portland Film Festival. So that's where the Telefilm grants would have helped. So in terms of Annecy, we traveled there on our own. Our film was not admitted to the festival route. So my producer and the executive producer, because we were part of that team, they facilitated that piece. Otherwise, you can go on your own. So the other time I went on my own was, again, like as a production company and a credited director. That's a different thing. So film markets, submitting your short film or pilot or proof of concept to different places, that is also a logistical piece. It is also legwork. You should start doing your research in advance because there are deadlines for each application. You should bookmark those deadlines and see what's required. And a lot of the times, a lot of these festivals have a lot of programs for things that are in development. So if you are developing something right now and you have a pitch package, which is, what's a pitch package really? There's a list. They give you a list of what's required in the package. You can actively prepare the information. It's usually all internationals open. Most festivals, most film markets, they have programs for everyone. It's just a matter of like you knowing and you applying and preparing the things. So development stage, in production stage, finished, screening, many stages at which you can find opportunities to get yourself into more events. So if your goal is to get into more events and get more publicity, that is what you have to think in terms of distribution at the end, and also like your development stage of what do you want to go with this?
I want to
Yeah.
I want to add something to this. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the things, like when you start when you go back to your Spark, when I mention again, I always go to the who, what, and the why, and and the who, like I think I said who, but the who is very important. This is where you start figuring out, do you want to put it in festivals? Because you want to put that at the beginning when you're actually planning this, and then you can start either molding it towards like a festival style of film that you want to show. And that's why it's very important to come up with all these things at the beginning, right? Like this is very important. And also, yeah, like the content, as long as you have this, you're in a good way, because by the time you get to the end, you already have planned everything and also have put everything together that is required by these festivals that you want to enter. right? Everything also has an outcome. What is what is a success? What would categorize your film as a success? That's also very important because sometimes success is just to enter a festival. Success could be getting like 100,000 eyeballs on it. You know, like there's different things that you got to put. So you got to put all these outcomes that you want at the beginning, um, just just to
Yeah.
help.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyways,
Because you're spending so much time on this. I mean, if we're doing it for ourselves as a hobby or as like our own passion project and we have no particular output distribution goals, that is also fine. It's your time. You just have deadlines because remember, if you don't have deadlines, you don't have a
um,
project. Even if the
yeah,
deadline stretches out, but you're actively working towards completion. That is also absolutely fine if you want that to be your calling card when you finish it. For me, my film is my calling card. When I go and I speak to people at markets and festivals and they ask me, what have you done? I say, well, I directed this film. And if you finish something, like Jose by himself did a film, he still directed it and he's still
mhm.
releasing it to festivals.
And produced it.
And produced it. So
Yeah,
he is accredited director and producer because as long as it's screened somewhere in public where there is audience and there was like a sentence that describes what that means. I can't, I don't remember off the top of my head, but essentially it means as long as it's been screened on either like a platform or in a festival, and it explains to you, like if you really want to dig into this on your
the
own,
criteria.
the criteria, yeah,
Yeah.
it's literally if you put it on YouTube, now it's considered that it's screened, so that's your now a credit. Like you had to do a YouTube campaign, so but just bear in mind with YouTube, if you're going to put stuff on YouTube, because it counts, then you might be discredited from other festivals. So it's really important for you to read and understand where you're going to submit the stuff and what not to do with it if it's going to discredit you. Or if you want to do a YouTube campaign, there's still something you have to build up to it. If you're just going to post it and you don't have a following, you don't have an audience, no one's going to find it. It's going to be hard for you to get traction. That's where the marketing comes in. You have to consider to build that, and that takes time. So again, thinking of these things in the beginning, it's a way better approach as you invest your time and like you know time that you could be doing other things. You're going to invest yourself in this, and then pick a goal. As long as you know what the goal is, then you will work towards it, and then you'll be actually really more fulfilled when you finish it, as opposed to kind of shooting in the dark and not knowing where you're going with it, and it's going to get frustrating over time possibly, and maybe it's not going to get finished possibly because again, as long as you know your direction, right? As a director, these are
Hmm.
all the things you'll consider. It doesn't matter where. That's where you got to put yourself in those shoes, right? So I think in terms of all these things, it's pretty much covered. I think we should hop into the Q&A. Um,
Yeah,
I'm
that's a
just
good
looking if
idea.
there's anything else here. There's a lot to be said about every single one of these
Oh,
bullet points,
we could
guys,
talk for days,
forever.
hours, weeks, months.
And we were talking about like doing another one just on this topic, because it's such a big topic. And again, like
Um,
yeah, we are working on putting more things together on this topic. So, Jose, do you want to pull up questions from the Q&A and we can
yeah,
just,
I got one here. Actually, this one I think it's a good question. Is like for radio plays, which I believe you mentioned, you took excerpts from the and re-edited them. Did you worry about things that copyright or fair use at all, or those other grayish areas, which I am only vaguely familiar with? Okay, this is actually an interesting question because I did look it up and I was worried because I really fell in love with the radio play. I listened to so many of them, and what I found out is like this it's a 50-year timeline. This was created in 1946, I believe, like the radio play. Most of the people are dead, and they said unless, and it's as far as I understand, I see online, it's free domain stuff. There's a lot of stuff that's free domain unless somebody takes over them, right? So or pays for whatever it is. So I used it, but also there's another thing that even there's two other things you can use it as parody. If you're doing a parody of something, you can get away with it. And the other part is that because I'm not making money out of it. I purely put it out just as a short that I wanted to make. I'm not making money out of it, so they can't come now. If I start making money selling it, then that's a different story. So that's the answer to that. For you, there's a question. How involved were you in this is directly to you,
Hmm.
Sonia. How involved were you in choosing and hiring all artists, the musician and creative leads in Ostinato?
Yeah, directly involved. So every single person that was a lead or a main role, I was part of the interview. I was part of helping find the people, find the crew. As you guys know, when you do individual projects, a lot of the people that work on the projects are people who kind of know you already, or people who are really passionate about the projects, or people who have time. So it's like a multi-factor situation. So in terms of that, yes, directly involved, absolutely. I know all the crew that were onboarded. And I know the teams. I spend a lot of time with the teams. I think, to me personally, that's very important. It's important for me to know the people who are putting time into the film that I'm directing. That's just my personal directing preference. So
Hmm.
that's it. So let's do
Yeah,
more. Let's do as
there's
many as
another
we can.
question. Yeah, another question. Ugh! Okay, I had to click another thing.
Do you want
This
do?
one's
Okay.
yep.
I was gonna say
What is
there's.
it?
I'm just going down the list.
The list. I'm just looking at
Yes.
an email for questions. Actually, this I might be a. Did you use other traditional 2D studio overseas steps when making Crazy House, such as board slugging, track breakdown, X sheets, lip assignments, and all that in between? In between. Yes, pun intended. Well, actually, this is an interesting question because I did everything myself. Like I had everything. I just did the timing myself beforehand. So I didn't. The only time you really need the slugging X sheets and everything like that, even slugging, it's not as much done anymore. I mean, I could talk about timing for ages, because I was trained by very old school uh, animators and cartoonists. So, but when it comes down to X sheets or anything, no, I did not need it because I'm not passing information to anybody else. It's me, myself, and I doing all this. But if you're working in a team environment, yes, you would say you would have to be very specific as the timing of things that you want things to happen. So yeah, you would have to break down all your shots, and that's a whole extra step that you'll be giving to somebody else. It requires extra thought, extra work. That is basically the main difference. As the other part, traditional, yes, I was trained traditionally, so I used to animate on paper and X sheets, and I used to get paid by the footage, which pretty much doesn't exist anymore. Footage is 16 frames per foot. Like you have to be good at math at that time. Anyways, yeah, that's the answer to that. Like, you want to
Yep. Yep. I've
answer a
got.
question that's in the
Yep, I've got one. It's a it's a multi-question, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
salad. I gotcha. There's a few here. I will answer them as best I can really quickly. It's a valuable one though. So the questions are: how do you make sure that what you're planning to do is achievable within your current team? Ideally, what would be decided when making a pitch? And then, of course, with changes and all of that, how much which should be decided before pitching a short film, as everything is bound to change. I will say a few things. First of all, we're talking about like the scope of the project, and then we're talking about like the short film in terms of uh, how much uh, how much should be decided before pitching a short film. So everything has to do with a balance of who's working on the project. Do you have a budget, yes or no? Your goal and
Mhm.
deadline of completing this, and then you had a piece where it says a lot of things can be changed along the way, and ideally what would be decided when making a pitch. So there are a few paths here, but all the paths start with one thing: your idea. And if it's a script or if it's something that resembles a script, that it's written down, and everything comes from there. So this is where your idea written on paper or a form of a script, because it doesn't have to be that formal script structure, but it needs to be written down. You need to write the who, the what, the why, etc. Structure it so you have the beginning, middle, end, and then that is your project scope. And then from there, you have to decide, well, here's everything I want to happen. How long will it, the length of this picture, you know? So then if you say, I feel this is about 5 minutes, you put out all the details. This is where you figure out the scope of your project based on the idea. If you don't know what the idea is, if you haven't written it down, how could you possibly quantify it? And from there forward, quantifying everything else in terms of the deadline, the who will work on it, how many people, do I have money? Yes or no? If I don't, what does that mean? That follows. But if you don't have your idea written down in a basic
Hmm.
structure, right? Like beginning, middle, end,
Hmm.
you can't quantify anything. And in terms of like what's enough when pitching a short film, this is a question that can be answered for the following. Who are you pitching it to? Who do you
Hmm.
want to participate in this filmmaking? This goes back to distribution. What are you going to do with it? So everything that we really talk about here is kind of, and then you guys can see in the questions and answers, it all boils down to the same things. What are you making? Who is it for? Where is it going to go when it's done? And everything else follows that. And in terms of pitching, I will tell you, it has to do, there's like basic benchmarks, a
Yeah.
pitch package, right? And then there are individualistic situations like applying for a grant. They have their own requirements, but most requirements ask for the same things, same elements. So
Uh,
that's that. So
oh, I
yeah,
want to add something to this.
yeah.
This is essentially what the foundations of project management is. Okay. Um, I have a lot of things to say about it because without project management, you everything could fall apart.
Mhm.
Okay, and that's why it's important to have a lot of questions. And these are so I suggest there's a lot of programs. There's a lot of websites. There's one. I forgot the name of it. Anyways, moving on. That you can take a small course on project management on what it means. And there's some free on YouTube on how it works, and you just follow the foundations of that, and you can see how you can organize your project accordingly, and that way it can get you moving forward as opposed to like just throwing things in the dark and not sure if they're going to hit. Well, everything, when you follow a project management outline, you're actually, everything has a place that it goes into, and all you have to do is follow it.
Mhm.
After that it's simple.
Mhm.
So it is very important to use. Anyways, continue to you.
Cool. I'm just gonna also like discuss the other part of this because I think everybody can relate to this one. So, what should you pay attention to when writing a script for short film? How does it differ from writing a script for feature, TV show, or short story per se? Besides the length, any things to keep in mind so that it wouldn't feel too rushed or awkwardly paced? What do you think, Jose? Because I can
Say
see
that
a lot.
again. Sorry, I was reading a question. Oops,
Yeah,
sorry.
like it's essentially what should you pay attention to writing a script, and how is it different from writing it for like a short film, a feature, TV show, or like what are the differences? I can just answer from my point of view, and
Yeah,
that
go,
is
and then I'll tell you mine.
again, the differences are all within the scope. It's not really,
Project
and where,
management.
yeah, project management, and where is it going to go? So if you're looking to involve this in a collection of short films, and if you found an application for that, then you see they have requirements. It has to be 5 minutes. It has to be like the standard short film category is up to 17 minutes, like standard all across, like different markets and all that. So I'm going to put in a short film festival. I know it cannot be more than X amount of length. I'm doing a feature film. I know it cannot be more than X amount of length. Writing for that then you have to create the content for that length, right? Up to. There's a minimum, there's a maximum. You don't have
Mhm.
to fulfill the maximum every time. Doesn't make it a better story. When you're writing, and in terms of like the difference you're saying, oh, is it for TV? Is it short film? Is it feature? Honestly, my personal opinion, all I can do is give you my personal opinion, is
Yeah.
when you watch content all over the place, the quality of it fluctuates. It's a short film. It could feel like a featurette. It could feel just as well done. The story can be just as impactful. Of course, mind you, with the short length of time, there's only so much story you can squeeze in. So I think it depends on the story you want to tell. If you have a story worth
Yeah.
of a feature, then you put that story. If your story just doesn't really add up to a series and you can't spin it into a series, it's just not enough story there, then you either develop the story or you condense it to a different format. You've got to think about the story of you're telling. Your turn.
Yeah. So the key word right there is story. I met a lot of artists that unfortunately been taught a really weird way that, creating animation is just moving things. And it's like, but if there's no story, it doesn't matter, right? Like the story will captivate you. Your animation, like you can do, I've seen a lot of short films that are like the animation is very crude, but it works because your story is strong. I mean, if you watch South Park, to me it looks like shit, but it's funny as hell. Like some people might not like it, but I've seen other shows as well that, if you look at the NFB, there's a lot of short films that are award winning, and there's a reason for that. The story's impactful. it means something. It gives you a connection. And the way the characters it could look, it could be something you like or you don't like, but it doesn't matter because you made characters that have an impactful story to you. You told a story essentially. Um, yeah, it looked like shit. Sorry, I didn't mean to sorry, but um, uh, anyways, that's one thing. Anyway,
I'll
what were
pick
you
another one
gonna?
for
Oh,
you,
you did.
actually. It's a good one.
Yeah, do it.
So what
Do,
do you have to say to
do.
like when directing? Do you think like you should be in the gritty stuff of actually doing layouts, animation, such as keeping your mind on directing and leading your team? It's a good one.
So, so
Do you
wait.
micromanage each department, or do you
Oh
just
God,
focus on working with the
micromanage
leads?
is. I'll tell you one thing. I despise micromanaging because um it kills creativity. So this is the way I put it when if I'm directing, and I've done the past where I was directing something and I'd be like, we want this to happen, like because there was two directors, so we needed to go. We want this to happen, and we had to look at the best answer, and it was not like at first they said no, and then we had to kind of go, well, like, can we do this around? So I wasn't trying to go like you have to do it because I'm the director. It's none of that. That is crap way of thinking. I think you have to have a conversation between your team leads and go like, okay, if that's not possible, what can we do to create this so we can have this in the story? And through conversation, we figured out a way to do it, not exactly how envisioned, but very close to it. Because let's face it, like anytime anything that's in your brain, it's very difficult to output. I mean, the best directors have trouble with this, right? Because it's like it's your brain. Nobody can get in your brain. But you're trying to verbalize your ideas to a team. And they have their own idea of what you just said. In the same way that we could both read the same book, but we read different books because the way we interpret things.
Mhm.
But that's what I like about it. You bring creativity to the team members where they go, "How about this?" And you go like, "Boom, that's really close. I like it." And then you work together to make something to move
Mhm.
forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Did
I'm
I
just gonna.
actually
Yeah,
answer the
that's good.
question?
I will add to it real quick from the practical. I'm a very like, in terms of like everything else, I am like all about like what is the most efficient, practical way. So in my process, I was involved in each department in a form of support. So it's not about me telling people do it the way I'm doing it. It's about being in the process of where they need feedback and they need to be provided more information on what they are working on. So if it's a layout and a layout pass has been submitted for the director, I could just say to the supervisor, take a pass, and then when you're done and you did your iterations, show it to me like the one step below, like final submission. To me as a director, that's okay, but I do also not like having multiple iterations go by, people wasting time if they're in the wrong direction. So what I tend to do is I tend to be part of the first review where it's the supervisor leading, but I just want to be aware of any questions that come up that I could answer in the early stage of the production. So if there's, because usually that's when the concerns come up. It's like I'm doing this
Hmm.
thing, and I also need
The
A, B, C,
guidance.
and D. Yeah, well, it's just information because the supervisor knows things, but there's always things in the process that come up. And so if I'm in the call, but I don't interfere with what they are doing, and it's a question that a director could also help answer if, let's say, we don't know everything. And again, it's about the vision, like Jose said, you have all this information, ideas, you can write it all down, but then there's always stuff in the process that come up. And because you understand the vision, the idea, and you know the information because you've had those conversations, you can on the spot help troubleshoot the concerns. And that will save like 3 steps of like the soup going to you going back to the soup's going back to the team, right? So
Yeah.
efficiency. So for me, it's
So
just
I
like be part of the conversations, be supportive,
100%.
don't get involved in like pointing right from wrong. It's more about is it in the right direction, offer information
Yeah. It's a
promptly,
guidance.
guidance. And for me personally, I also draw like as form of feedback because not everybody, like words are words, drawings are drawings. We are in the visual
Mhm.
business. If you want something to be altered visually, show them what you mean. That's that.
Yeah.
I think we should move on to another one.
It,
What do you think? Or you
yeah,
want to add
yeah.
something?
And I just wanted to add something quickly. I know we
Hmm.
have there was a question at the beginning before I think everybody was here. And I just want to cover it now.
Hmm.
The idea of the community is that we all to get together. It is free for everybody to join.
Yeah.
Uh, Like we do have like little boot camps, and we offer them. You don't have to take the boot camps in order to be part of the community. The boot camps are there for people who might want to learn about these things. We're trying to make it affordable. There will be more, but it's just like just to make it clear that it's not required for you to be in the community. It's just an actual thing if you want to learn about, for example, the Tradigital, how to actually use that pipeline. Well, I can show you that. That's separate, but yeah, you don't have to do that in order to join the community. So just to be clear.
And I'm just
What
gonna
question do you have?
I'm just gonna bring up like a comment because I think it is important. It's a clarification. So like when I said the word micromanaging, it means many things to people. At the end of the day, when there's people involved, there's a pipeline, there's order of business, there's things that you hand in a certain way. That's that piece. Then the questions that are creatively related, decisions that are creatively related, things that are related to is this visually on the right path? That's
Hmm.
where the support is needed from the
Yeah,
director. So that's that. Let's
yeah,
talk
that's another
about,
question.
yeah, so let's talk about in terms of funds and all of that. Funding means grants, means if you're looking for funding, you have to look for programs, and then based on where you are in the world, based on like what country organizations you have in that state, province, country, etc., you have to do research on that one because it is related to you specifically. In Canada, we have organizations, we have provincial, federal organizations where we can apply
Hmm.
for different funding for different things. It's a whole other thing. There's a list of them. There's Art Council of Canada, there's Ontario Creates, there's CMF, there's Telefilm, there's then there's BC Creates, there's a bunch.
That's for Canada, yeah.
Yeah, that's for Canada specific.
And it depends on what country you're coming from. So if it's wherever you are, Spain, or they might have different. I know Europe, for what I understand, I could be totally wrong, has some good stuff in there. So and some great artists in there. So look into it if you're there. Otherwise, I don't know it specifically by country though, but
There was a question here about your film. It actually is reiterates another question of like getting the film finished and like what are the red flags that the film won't get finished, but also like Jose, did you plan to
mm,
finish it for 3 years? Like what do you have to say about like
yeah,
finishing a short
no,
film?
that's a really good question. No, I did not plan to finish it in 3 years because had no idea. To me, it was going to be 1 year. Okay, I'm gonna do this, but then I'm like, wow, 12 minutes. Okay, let's see. I have to do everything because I had no help. So as I'm going along, I actually decided to make it digital. So that means just traditional animation, but I'm doing it with a digital platform. So animating basically on Photoshop. And I'm not using builds because I find builds very restricting. And I grew up with and love Tex Avery cartoons. And in order to create a lot of crazy expressions, you have to break model. But in the build world that we have in studios, nothing can go beyond what the build is in some cases. So you can't really deform anything. But I don't like that. I want to make it like exaggerated, crazy, funny, whatever. So that was my choice for it. So it was a choice that was very hard to make because I knew that by making that choice, it would take longer. So I had to minimize on animation. So I made it um, very simple animation. I didn't go into too many ease-ins or anything. It was just boom, boom, boom. I was more concentrated on the story. So
Okay.
I saw red flags as I was building it, and then I would stop. So like as a year went by, and I'm like, well, I need to add more time. But that's part of project management because you need to weigh your risks, right? You got to look at your risk. This is it's going to take longer, therefore you need more time. So I had to extend. So I kept doing that until I'm like, well, it's going to be finished when it's finished in my case. But I had to put myself deadlines, right? So I'm like, by July, I need to be here. And I started, the closer I got when I got to the second year, I had to make myself shorter deadlines. So within this week, I need to have this much within this, and so on and so forth. And there's a lot of things that went wrong because I was uh, made mistakes and I had to fix it. But now I figure out a pipeline to do all this again. So it take a lot shorter to do it from now on. But if you're doing something new, definitely it's going to take longer. So you need to take that into account. Those are little red flags. You make a list. Use I use paper, man. I still use paper. I weigh everything out. I put it in a timeline. You go, what are the problems? What are the red flags? And then you have to work within that, you know, spectrum there.
Yeah, I'm just
Does
gonna
that
grab.
answer the question?
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I'm just gonna grab another one, and I'll
Yeah.
cover this one real quick as well. And I'm sure you have also thoughts. What, in your opinion, are the best things that I needed to present in a strong proof of concept? So my question goes back to, who are you presenting it to? Well, for what purpose? If it's like a studio and it's executives, and it's an animation studio, they are more experienced with proof of concept. They may not need you to provide them absolutely everything, but a good proof of concept usually outside of what I just said is your story. So there has to be a script of sorts, whatever format you've written it in, and you have to have design. You have to have an established style of what this is. And if you have an animation test shot, that is an even better proof of concept, because that is like the project like benchmark that speaks to what that would take, how long it would take, the cost to people who are thinking about making what you're showing them, because different styles require different costs and different pipelines. If it's a 3D versus 2D, if it's a CG versus 2D, if it's a blend, if like hybrid, or if it's just one or the other, it all has to do with, well, if we're like your proof of concept, how we're going to execute it. So if you can answer that question, like what is the proof of concept, like what's the story, when I look at the proof of concept, it's clear to me what it's about, it's clear to me who it's for audience wise, it's clear to me what the style it's in, it's clear to me like in the style of what it looks like, and the proof of concept test shot, I know how it moves, I know that what it's going to take if I were to execute this. You always have to think of what are you showing this for. Okay, so if you want money, they have to answer all these questions in their mind. So your proof of concept has to communicate that. Do you want to add anything else, Jose?
No, no, no. Just also for time, because I know some people are leaving because they have class or
Yeah.
something. So what we could do, yeah, there's a lot of more questions, which I love having questions. So what we can do is we can follow this up on the question and answer tab in our section in our Discord channel.
Yep.
Um,
And the
I
boot
mean,
camps are starting in February, just whoever is
oh yeah, yeah,
wondering,
yeah, yeah. The
and
boot
they're
camps are.
ongoing after that. Yeah.
Yeah, they're ongoing, and then we'll be adding more to them. And depends also on what feedback on what the group might need. It'll be good to hear too. Is like, what are the things that you guys need to know? Because I mean, we've done this for a long time. We've worked in every department, so we kind of like, if you don't know something, you need to learn it. Like we can figure out a boot camp that would help with that, and we try to make it as affordable as possible. Because I know we know a lot of us are not in the best situation, but it's like it is, valuable, and we want to bring the most value to you guys with any of these boot camps.
I have one more question. I think it's good one to answer. This is the question. I'm new to indie studio production, but I like to see myself as a creative director someday. What are your tips for climbing the ladder to become an assistant or creative director on a short film production? Starting, like, do you need to start a job with different positions, industries to work in to segue into indie? Jose, what do you think?
Sorry, I'm answering a question. Hey, um, say that again. Sorry.
Essentially, somebody who wants to get into creative directing or assistant or creative
Mhm.
director on a short film production, are there
Yeah,
prerequisites, job
yeah.
experiences you need? What do you
The,
need to get into that
You
kind of
need
role?
to, and you're not gonna like my answer. You need to actually go through every single department and know how they work, and,
Hmm.
and know what their outcomes are, in order to understand when you're like leadership is a very interesting position because you need to, in my eyes, you need experience to go through everything, so you understand how every department works. Because if you don't, if you just go, I'm a creative director, and you give yourself that title, and then it goes, okay, we need this and this and this. Well, you don't know how those departments work and what their timelines are. Then you're going to be lost, and you're going to be giving the wrong time, and this could be very big detriment to the whole production. So it is important to try out everything, work in every department, um, understand it. And actually, the best thing is do your own short film. Just do it,
Yes.
and then you'll understand how long things take,
Yeah.
and you'll understand what's the risks and the red flags you need to look out for. Because only then will you understand really, like in practice.
Hmm.
I can tell you theory for hours, but until you try it and do it yourself, it's hard. That's the answer I give.
Yes,
Sorry if it's deflating.
no, it's fine. I will counter offer that and offer my 2 cents. I think
Yeah.
that it comes down to how involved you're looking to be, and it comes down to what you're looking to do. So in terms of like a creative director on a short film, uh, see, indie animation is now a mix of essentially who can do what, who wants to take over what responsibility, do you have the knowledge, skills, and support, and can you execute that role? So a lot of it
Mm.
is things you have to answer to yourself. You have to have some sort of aspect of confidence that if you don't know the answer, you're comfortable looking for the answer. You have to be really good with working with people, in my personal opinion, when it comes to leadership roles. And it's a collaborative effort. You're not going to always know all the answers, but you need to be good working as a team. You need to also be good at making decisions, being comfortable to actually make decisions that will be following the schedule. And of course, when it comes to hands-on experience, which is what Jose is saying, do your own thing, testing yourself and knowing what you can and cannot do. However, with that being in mind, there's a lot of directors who come from one type of department and they've never put their hands into other departments, but they have all these other skills that I just mentioned, or soft skills, or leadership, and all of these things where they rely on their supervisors. And so you need to understand that when you assume a leadership role, whatever role that is, you are assuming the responsibility of decision making, the well-being of your team, the well-being of the short being completed on time, working closely with your scheduling, whoever that is, yourself, like you're taking
Yeah.
on that responsibility. It's about owning the onus of your team. It's not just about checking off a mark saying I did this job. That's where leadership is. If you feel like you can fulfill it and you can help certain departments, but others, you're gonna have to rely on other people, that is also okay. You just need to be real about it. And the thing is, I think it's Kevin O'Brien. I forget if his name is. He is married to Brenda Chapman. I think it's Kevin.
Yeah.
I forget his
I
last
think
name.
so.
Anyway, he's a director at forget they were DreamWorks or whatever, and then Brenda Chapman is a legend, of course. But he said
Mm.
something once, and I really love that. I always remember it. He said he wanted to direct, but he never got a gig to direct. So he just went and started directing. And he said, just start doing it. Start doing it on a very small scale, whether it's your own project and getting other people involved, learning on a small project, or you working with a bigger project. But do need some skill and knowledge in some departments. If not, you have to understand the pipeline, go through the process of it at least once, understanding the demands and requirements to be a good, efficient leader. So that's that. It's 111. She director, yes, of
Yeah.
course, she's a legend. Yeah,
Mm.
she's wonderful. So let's take one more, and the rest we can answer offline. Um, so do you have one you want to pick? Do you want me to pick one?
Pick one.
Pick one.
Pick one.
We talked
Yeah.
about funding. We talked about planning. What actually is I think money is always important to talk about. I never shy away from that.
Yeah.
What actually is a budget? Where the money comes from and where it goes? How much budget is roughly needed for animation film, like for a little team, 10 to 20? So this here is a
Yeah.
specific question towards um, whose film is it? Whose project is it? Do you have a producer who can help you find funding? Are you going to apply for funding? It's the chicken and the egg. What do you want to make, and what are the resources you have available to fund what you want to make, and who's involved? That's what I can say on that in like a short sentence. It's all very conditional to what you're making. And the budget is the money you're going to spend to pay for storage, labor, application to film festivals, and everything you want to
Yeah.
do with this film. That's what the budget is. It's
Yeah.
money that you're gonna spend to get it done. And honestly, for indie animation, indie short films, indie anything, the budgets are really conditional to where you live. Like the people you're gonna hire, if it's international hires, local hires, if it's going to be just yourself and two other people, it's going to be like a co-production. It all has to do with a whole other pile of things that will take us another 2 hours to discuss. So stay tuned for more talks, I guess. That's the short form. Anything you want to add, Jose?
No, that's pretty much it. Just to reiterate, actually, there's somebody, Sama had a question. Sorry to insist, but is there a way to get my hands on the recording from yesterday in any way? Yes. The recordings will be mailed out. Just to cover it again, just so you guys know, you will be getting a recording of both days, so you can review and if you have more questions, which would be great, that we can get into on the Discord channel. But yeah, like I said, we want to. Build this community, and like we will go back to whatever questions were not on and were not answered. We're going to try to just reply to them on Discord. I know there's tons. We can go for hours going through questions, but we will be probably doing another one of these free little workshops again
Yeah, we
in the
will.
near future.
Mhm.
And then we can have more questions. We can cover things. We would love to hear what kind of stuff you want us to talk about, because if you're creating your own films, I'm sure you will have tons of questions about how to go about it. And that's why we created this for.
Yeah.
So please do comments. Yeah, any comments. Like we said, we get reviews. Like if you give us some feedback, and we can schedule some one-on-one, and like we discussed.
Yeah.
And what else?
Just
My
shoot us